Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. Over the last week in my basket, I have shared something that was really profound to me a few weeks ago. I went to the First Foundation Mentor Awards, and it was really quite a humbling event seeing the different people getting all the awards, but hearing their stories as well about where they've come from, the adversity they've faced in their family, in their surroundings, and the fact of what First Foundation offers is the scholarship here, but that's not about the money. It's about the mentorship and the guidance that they give to these young people, and just watching them speak about how this has changed their lives. But the thing that really stood out for me was the impact of something called the butterfly effect. We've all heard about the butterfly effect in our lives, where according to the butterfly effect, there's a butterfly flaps its wings somewhere and there's a tornado somewhere else. I mean, that's the most basic level of talking about it. But in this context, I thought about the butterfly effect, about what little thing do we do in our life every single day that has a huge impact in society or in life. And sometimes that impact doesn't have to be in the whole world. It doesn't have to be a massive impact in the whole world, but it's just an impact in your world, which is around you. And that just reminded me about, what we do and how we do things. And I think this is a great, great learning for me and a great takeaway, because I think the person, in fact, I know, our guest this week, they don't know this yet, but this is a learning that I got in. But I think what they're doing with their lives is an amazing butterfly effect in real life happening. And when we bring them on, you'll see why I talk about that. Tane's jumped on. Tane, hopefully you're there. We can't see you yet.
Yep, sorry, hang on, just rearranging a couple bits.
All right, cool. We'll bring you in a second. So that's my learning over the last week. The impact of the butterfly, the impact of the little things that you do in life that can have a huge ripple effects. Without further ado, I can keep talking on and on and on. And as Tana gets himself settled, I'm going to introduce our guest this week. Our guest this week is someone that came to my attention a few months ago when they popped up on the news because of something that they were doing, which I thought was really profound and really impactful. Over the last few months, I've been following their journey. I've been looking at what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it's really our real privilege and honor to invite our guest onto the podcast this week. This is somebody whose story, as you will see as it plays out, has the real true impact of the butterfly effect. Welcome to our podcast, Rhys. Thank you, Amit.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Awesome, Rhys. For people who don't know anything about you, who is Rhys at this point in time as we record this podcast?
Yeah, so my name is Rhys Blisset. So I am the founder of a foundation called Run for Change that I created just late last year. So that's pretty much what got sort of my attention. I was studying at NZIS where I was doing a pre-police course. So I want to have a future in police as a career. I'm also a huge runner, so that normally takes up a lot of my days during the week and weekends. And I thought to have that in the foundation as well. So that's sort of where Run for Change come from as well.
And beautiful. And before we talk about Run for Change, let's talk about Rhys's story. So Rhys, you came into the news because of what you did. You did an amazing run to raise money for Women's Refuge, but your story starts well before that. Do you want to share why this is such a big area and a big passion and a big area in your life that you really want to make a change in?
Yeah, my sort of story from when I was younger had a big sort of aspect around the run that we did. Growing up, me and my siblings were really involved around domestic violence. It's something that happened on a daily basis, and it was just a huge part of our childhood that we had to experience. Yeah, that's just what kind of led on to making a change through Run for Change. And I think that was the big story that sort of got brought out to the media, and that to sort of make a change in other people's lives through what we were doing.
Yeah, and as I was doing some research for this podcast, I read that at the age of 12 is when you started to start sustaining yourself. So let's talk about that there. So you were living in an environment that was not very conducive as a family and a final. How did that, as you were thinking about yourself as a young person, you have stuff happening at home, and then you've got to go to school every day. How did you feel when you're doing that?
It was really hard. I was sort of at that age where I knew what was going on at home. I had a little brother that was a lot younger than me as well, that was in the same environment, but he was just a little bit younger to know what was going on. So I was sort of at that age, 12 years old, to be experiencing that the night before, knowing what happened, sort of being traumatized from it. and then going to school the next day, having that in the back of my mind while still trying to, learn and listen to the education that the teachers are giving us. But it was really hard just having it in the back of your head, knowing what happened the night before, and then, yeah, just being able to carry on learning and interacting with others while just, yeah, having that on your mind, wondering if anyone else in the classroom is experiencing the same thing. Like, it crossed my mind quite often. Was this just normal? Did it happen in every household? I think, yeah, it was just a real big overload that would, yeah, just was in a 12-year-old's mind, which probably wasn't the healthiest. Yeah.
And I guess there's a keyword that you use, the word normal. When did you realize that actually this was not a normal thing to be happening? Was it with your peers, or was it just a light bulb moment when you actually, this is not okay?
It took a long while for me to realize that it wasn't okay. Like, I used to go to like sleepovers and that, and with friends, and then seeing their family interact, and the way that their parents interacted was a lot different to what was going on at my household. So I think it started off with that like every friend that I was interacting with in their home life, um, I sort of realized, but it was only at the age of 15 or 16 that I really, really realized that this isn't okay. This isn't normal. I need to make a change for my life to get out of that sort of situation.
Yeah, and one of the things I read about your story as you start realizing the change was that you also had the experience of being in safe houses by Women's Refuge. And what is that like for you as a young person, as you had your home environment and then you were taken away into a safe house for a little bit and then brought back? How did you as a young person navigate that as you look back now?
It was, yeah, at the time, it felt like a relief being involved with Women's Refuge. The whole process was very, very scary, a little bit confusing, but also just feeling a bit safe. Going into the Women's Refuge houses after the process, it was just felt not right. It didn't feel like a household. Obviously, in that safe house, you were really, really safe, but just not having that comfortability. Our bedrooms were the only place we could really go to get away from cameras and hallways, lounges, kitchens. There was always just a camera there. Obviously, we weren't allowed to leave the house unless we were escorted with someone. So if we ever wanted to go to the shop, we'd have to be escorted with someone, and then that would only be occasionally throughout the weeks. So it was, yeah, we weren't at any contact with like the outside world. It was kept very, very within that household, location wise, and all that. So it was for a 12-year-old, it was quite a lot. Yeah, just not having that, I guess, full privacy that you would want in your own household.
Yeah, and when I can't even try and imagine that this, I agree. It's a beautiful. I say beautiful. It's beautiful that you're able to share this experience as you look back and say, hey, it sounds. You hear the word safe house, but obviously for you, it was still basically the only place that you felt real safe was in your bedroom, because otherwise you can't be your own self and your own person. One of the things I also read about was that you started working because you had no finances, no one was able to help you out. You wanted to become financially independent. So I noticed how in your year 12 year you started structuring your timetable so that you'd have the study period so you could get to work. Was school aware of this, or was this something that you were just battling on your by yourself?
So this happened after we were in the safe home, so we were able to leave the safe homes in that, and we were able to go back to a normal life. So we were out in Rangiora, which is a bit out of Christchurch, and so I went to Rangiora High School, and then yes, my parents' finances weren't very good, so obviously we struggled quite a lot with food and just all that stuff, housing, just the norms. So I did sort of had to make a decision of moving out and sort of making a better living style for myself. And so I did end up moving out, and I was living in Ashley, which is just a little bit out of Rangiora. So I was still studying full time at Rangiora High School hours a week. So school was aware of it. They were super, super supportive during it. I went to my dean and head of house and just told them my situation and that, and they were super supportive of giving me like a study period. Yeah, so my
Go back
yeah,
again.
so my head of house and Dean was super supportive around it. They gave me a study period at the end of the school day, so I'd be able to get to work in time and be able to do my 4 hour 10 hours at work. But yeah, that was quite a struggle, just being able to work around working 10 hours a day with school as well. I don't think I was getting a heap of sleep, but that was the only way I could sort of escape that lifestyle and get myself into a safer environment while, um, yeah, being able to put myself somewhere that I want to be in the future.
Now, kudos to you for taking that step there. As I said before, we can't imagine that there's a kudos to you, but also shout out to the teaching staff at Rangiora High School, to help you,
Yeah,
to support you there, because at the start I said the butterfly effect. I mean, the butterfly effect of them was just to allow you to have the study period towards the end of the day to make
yeah.
your reality become true. So it's really beautiful. Shout out to both of you for that there. And did you always want to become a police officer, or was that something that because of your experiences you realized that actually this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, growing up, we were like our whole lives are based around police. We almost had them at our doorstep, almost every night of the week and weekends as well. I think it started when I was really young. For as long as I remember, I've always had the dream of becoming a police officer. I think just with them being around and for everything to only stop when the police arrived back were, like the energy was really high at all that. And as soon as the police come, that energy dropped and because they were the almost protectors that took that drama away and took that violence away. So I think I always looked up to the police that did that. They were super supportive to us, me and my little brother, sort of growing up as well around that, even though it wasn't the same person every single day, but they all just had an understanding and they were super supportive towards us. They always took us away from the situation and set us down. But I think, yeah, that was what makes me want to be a police officer, being able to do that to, help other people that are in these sort of situations and stop that and being able to be that protector for other people in the communities.
Yeah, I guess this is where the impact of people around you have a say on what you like to do in your life. Whether it's becoming a police officer or what businessman, it's people that you hang around with, but also the people that have an impact, a direct impact on your life. When did running come into your world, Rhys? When was running was it an escape that you've always had, or did it come at some particular point in your life?
Yeah, it's coming real recently, like just last year. I never would have thought of running 5 kilometers a couple of years ago. That would just be, it wouldn't be in any of interest, let alone running 20, 30, and then 137 like we did last year. It was when I started at New Zealand Institute of Sport and when I started doing the police course. Obviously, I had to start to get fitter to get into that course, which I was already fit, but not overly fit before I started the course. But just during the course, there was a heap of running. There was just a heap of fitness, everything that would prepare you for being a police officer. And yeah, at times we'd be going away for 5 kilometer runs, we'd be doing 10 kilometer runs, 20 kilometer runs around the block, mixed in with weight gaining and weight exercises and just heaps of things like that. As well as the 2.4 kilometer run that you got to do for the entry test for the police. I think when I started that was when I really fell in love with it. I started to do it in my weekends outside of course, just on my own, and I was doing it up in the hills and out at Sumner and sort of places that were super scenic to do it in. I think that's when I started to fall in love with it and found I really, really enjoyed running long distance. Kind of just takes everything off my head, lets me think about things and plan things. Yeah, it just feels like a little zen place for me to be in the time. But yeah, it's super recent, but yeah, it's something I want to carry on with my life, and it's always going to be a part of me. It's something that I'm going to be doing in the future.
Amazing. You know what's really cool, Rhys, is we've had yourself, we've had someone called Giles as well, and we had another person as well who jumped on, and all of you are runners, but every
Mm.
single one of you only picked up running relates in your when I say late, I mean you're still young, but it wasn't something that you grew up at school, which is something that you picked up and you've become really passionate about it. So it's really awesome to hear that and see that. And I guess I'll bring Tana in here because Tana, last night you did Relay for Life down in Dunedin. And when you do stuff with a purpose, what does that feel like? I can't hear you. Don't you just love to acknowledge everybody?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. So I guess for me, Relay for Life, and running for Relay for Life, it's awesome to have a purpose. Similar to Rhys's story, I never really grew up doing running. Well, I did because I, don't like being able to do it, but never really actively sought out running until probably when I was studying. I started the run club, and that got me back into the spirit of running. And then, yeah, last night, I think having a purpose behind it was cool. So a couple of people that I knew and who have supported me through my university journey, but also to do it for people that have passed in my life. And those people last year, I think it gave me a real purpose and aspiration to just get it done. And, considering I played a rugby game, I don't have the stuff, I think it just made me realise that sometimes, like running isn't everybody's forte. It's always tough. But I think that, there are a lot of random people that have supported me too. And I think it just goes to show the power of the collective community and collective goal without having to really go into the nitty gritty of, what's your heritage, how do you relate to Relay for Life? And I think that's why it's such an awesome, an awesome activity or event that people get behind and support.
Amazing, and this is a great segue right into Rhys. So Rhys, you spoke about briefly about the 137. When did you dream up this idea of actually I want to run this crazy amount of mileage for a cause? When did that dream, or when did that idea pop into your head?
So it started during course about October last year. It was actually a guy called Sam Harvey. So he came in and talked to us pre-police students and the PT students at NZIS, and just hearing the accomplishments that he's done through running, through his sport. Obviously, he doesn't focus on doing things that I'm doing, but he's like focuses in backyard ultras and all that stuff, and he's super good at it, and he's doing massive kilometers every week and within these events. And I think that kind of inspired me quite a lot with running, and to, get up and do something, do a long distance and give it a go. And then that was sort of when I went out and did it in a weekend, and I did like a long distance run. And then that was it just popped in my head, why don't I turn my past into something incredible through a long distance run? At the start of the year, last year as well, I struggled quite a lot, sort of with my mental health and around that, just accepting what happened to me back in my past, and it sort of just was bottled up from my past, and sort of just quite affected me at the start of last year. So I was sort of still getting through it, and thought I could turn that into something positive and into a run. So I only thought of it at October last year. I pretty much just brought it to my tutors, and I was going to do it alone. I just brought it to my tutors at NZIS and brought them the idea and asked them what they thought about it, and they thought it was possible, and they were super supportive, and they even offered to do it with me and support me along the way. But it was all just sort of all thrown together and planned really, really quickly and last minute. It was only planned like a month or 2 months prior to the actual event. But yeah.
Yeah, you see me smiling because is you had the idea in October, and when did the run actually happen?
So it happened in November.
Crazy. Within 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Crazy, amazing. And before that, what is the furthest distance you had run?
So like before planning, I couldn't even tell you the furthest I've run. Maybe the 2.4 kilometer run that we did at course. But then, it's sort of when I went to my tutors and asked them, how am I going to be able to accomplish this, especially in a short distance as well with training. And then, that was sort of when I sort of locked in, and I was doing large distance. I was doing 30 to 50 kilometers in the weekends. Obviously, it was still quite hard to train when I was still studying. While I was studying at NZIS, I was still working full time as well. So I'd cut my hours down a little bit from when I was at high school, but I was still doing 40 hours a week. So it's sort of hard to find that training time in between school and work, which were my two main priorities. And then as well as on top of that is planning the actual event and making it possible.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. I like to go back to what Tanya said before. The collective community really helps. You going back to your tutors at NZA and hey guys, or hey team, sorry, this is what I want to do. Something that's you could do by yourself, but hey, having a community makes things so much easier.
Yeah, the community was super backing with the idea. Just taking it to course, and the whole course pretty much backed me. My tutor took it to the manager of NZIS and NZMA, and she was super awesome. She just backed me completely with anything I wanted. She would provide. I also took it to one of my old primary schools. So that was Swananoa Primary School, and they were hugely supportive as well. So that was my old principal and one of my old teachers that is now the deputy and acting principal. I also brought the idea to them, and then they brought me out to school and put me out in assembly, and I got to talk to all the parents of the children and also the children of what I was doing. And then there was more of a private one where it was just just of why I'm doing it, what I'm doing it for. And then so the school ended up doing like a mufti day, and we did a sausage sizzle as well to like raise funds for Women's Refuge. And then we had like a give a little page up as well, and all the parents pretty much rallied together, and they were able to raise just in that one night. I think we raised like $5,000-6,000 just in a couple of hours, just from that one chat I had with all the parents. And then all the teachers at that school also got riled up and put all their money together to buy my equipment and brought like my running bag and another pair of shoes and all that. So definitely the community was what helped me through this and made it possible. So yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. That's a beautiful share.
Yeah.
Community makes a lot of things happen. Tana, do you want to add into that there? Anything about community?
I guess just as we say, like I think obviously we've alluded to community being such a big part of our lives, but I think also just realizing that sometimes the community you're within isn't always the community you thought you were going to be a part of. People will come out for different reasons to be a part of the community. Whether it was, I guess, being in Dunedin for coming on 6 years now, really makes me realise that, community is a strange collection of people sometimes. Sometimes you can actively seek those communities that you're always comfortable with, and that's awesome. But I think sometimes, as I say, like my example last night with the Relay for Life, sometimes talking to a complete stranger about something that's, completely irrelevant to them or they might not relate to actually helps you get through those tough times, but also those cool celebration moments or, having an ability to turn something that, is seen as a negative or we hold, as a negative and turning that into something that can be more positive and using that energy in a positive way. So I think, the collective community, it's not always the people you think it's going to be, and I think that's always the biggest challenge is not settling for thinking that your community is only boxed into this one category of people.
And it's so true and so valid right there. So valid right there. Rhys, I'm going to come back to you, and you decide on this run here. How do you decide the number 137? Why is that an important number?
So I was living around the Christchurch area, and I grew up a lot in Ashburton. My siblings live in Ashburton, so I thought to find a long distance, it'd be cool to run from my current home to where I grew up and where I was raised. So I pretty much started in Rolleston, which is not a part of where I was living, but the safest starting point. And just ran from where I'm currently living to where I grew up and then back again. Yeah, that was sort of the main reason why I picked that route, was just able to run, see my family halfway, and then be able to run back as well.
And any significance about the number 137? Or was just that was the kilometers?
It started off at 126, so that was all the signage in that. Obviously, because it was only planned in such a short time, so I set out a route for me to do. And then in the last 2 weeks, that was when my whole class got involved, and then the other classes from course at NZIS as well got involved, and I had like 16 people wanting to, rally behind me and get involved in it. So after that, I had to sort of, because it was 16 people running down the State Highway 1, I had to sort of think of their safety as well. So I had to sort of change up the route, and so some of it was running down back roads just to keep everyone safe. So that was where the kilometers bumped up to 137. But I thought to pick something like that as well would get more attention. The main thing about this whole run was to raise money and awareness. But so our main goal was to raise funds for Women's Refuge, but also raise awareness around domestic violence. So I thought by doing something that, a big distance run that would surprise people would get more awareness and get people to, think about domestic violence a lot more, and, just be more interested in what we're doing to understand what domestic violence does to lots of people in the whole of Aotearoa.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. I love that. I'm going to take you back to the day you did the run. How were you feeling when you started the run? Did you feel like, yep, I got this, or you're like, damn, what have I done?
I was feeling good. I was sort of, mixed emotions. Obviously, before, it was like 10 minutes before we even started, I was doing an interview with TVNZ and One News. So, I was sort of, had heaps of energy. It felt like I could just run, I could just sprint the whole thing. I think my adrenaline was really high, but I think for me, I felt, good throughout the whole thing. A couple of weeks before I ran from Rolleston, so where we started, to Rakai and back. So that was the length of Rolleston to Ashburton. So I knew I could run from Rolleston to Ashburton. So I sort of had that in the back of my head that, I've already done this before. All I got to do is get there. I think what took my mind off it was I still had that kind of management role in the back of my head. So I was still making sure everything was going smoothly. I sort of wanted the whole event to go perfectly. And then I was also helping the others, because we had 16 other people that some of these runners have never ran over 10 kilometers before in their lives. And some of them just decided to, rally behind me in the last week of the actual event coming up. So I was sort of just helping, supporting everyone, because at the end of the day, I did want to get everyone to the finish line. That was another goal that we had. We wanted everyone to be able to get there as well as safely as well.
Amazing. So was there anyone else that ran the 137, the full 137 with you, or were they just taking in and taking out?
Yeah, we had, so we started off with like 16. So we had 9 people that finished it. Finished it with us. Some people sat in the car for a bit, maybe 5 kilometers, just to have a rest in the house. But there was overall 3 of us that finished the whole 137 that just didn't rest at all. They just powered through it. And then so those 3 was including myself, but the other 2 were the 2 boys that said they would support me through it right from day one of the actual plan coming out, which was super cool. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. When I think about this, I think about David Goggins. Did you use him for inspiration, or did you look at his stuff, or you like, who the hell's David Goggins? Oh, we can't hear you.
Not really. No, not a whole lot. I haven't read into a heap of them. But yeah, he's maybe for our next event, I'll definitely read into that. It'd probably help me quite a lot.
Yeah, I think you should probably tag him in into your stuff. Just to throw out there. I mean, I think he loves this kind of stuff here. If you want to find somebody who runs crazy
Yeah.
long distances as well, just for fun, for charity, hey, he's your man to tag in, and you never know. You never know what could happen from there. Yeah, I'll bring Tana in as the internet is dropping a little bit there. Tana, as we think about this, think about these events here, and you heard what Rhys said about community and about purpose. You've done a couple of cool things in your world. When you think about starting those events, do you feel like what Rhys felt, like the adrenaline at the start? Do you keep going, or do you have moments where you're like, oh, actually, why am I doing this?
I think it's a bit of both. I think now that I've done, because I think for me, like I've probably done 4 of my own half marathons now. I've never done a recorded one. I've always wanted to do like the Dunedin Marathon, for example, but I've never done any recorded ones. But then when I think about Relay for Life, I don't really count it. But I guess that would have been my third Relay for Life that I've run. The first one I done 51 or 52 kilometres running and walking with Tiroku Māori. And then the second one, a couple of years ago, I done 68 kilometres. I think the cool thing about the events is you realise, like, I think you take it away from the perspective of the massive goal of how much you're trying to do. I think, the first time I was kind of like, I'll just run and walk the whole thing. I just wanted to make sure that by the end of it, I was moving. And when I got to the 51, 52 kilometres, I was like, shit, that's more than a half marathon, more than a full marathon. Let's see what I can do the following year. The following time, I've done it 68. And as I say, I think I probably could have done more, but I think I went in with the mindset of, last time I did 50 or so this time I'm aiming for 70 or 80, and I think it just become unrealistic because I hadn't really trained, other things come up. And so I think the other cool thing with Relay for Life, for example, is, the track's only 400 or 500 meters long. So you kind of just counted on laps, you change direction. And if you say, and the thing is, I think sometimes you go, like yesterday, for example, I went in there, like, sweet, I'll just do my half marathon, that'll be it. But of course, you slow down, you see people, you're not talking, or they catch you because they haven't seen you in a while. I guess that's the point, right? That's the purpose. Like, it's not actually about how many laps you do, how many, I guess, for the high schools, the halls of residence, all those kinds of things, to hear, I guess, the teachers and the supporters being like, this kid's done 40 laps, 50 laps, 10 laps, and they never thought they could do it. It just makes you realise that, like, we've all got our different goals and these kinds of things, and I think we're all trying to get different stuff out of it. I think the last probably 6 kilometres yesterday was dragging a bit just because I knew what my goal was, but I think if I changed my perspective a little bit and kind of done it based on how long I was running for in terms of time or laps or something like that, I think it would have made it a bit more manageable. And having those support structures, I think, is crucial in events like this because as I say, I kind of last minute decided to jump into this relay, which is fine. But I think having those one or two support people, it just actually, in the long run, it benefits you a whole lot more than just going in last minute and hoping that it'll be all right.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's really funny you say that last minute. I mean, Rhys, your whole event was sort of like the last minute. Let's give it a crack and let's give it a go. But obviously, the passion was behind it. And Rhys, how did you feel when you finished? When you actually, because you said that you'd run to Rakaya a few weeks before, all good. But this is now different because now there was the media, there was some publicity around it. How did you feel when you crossed that finish line? The invisible finish line.
Yeah, so once I crossed the finish line, it was pitch black. It was maybe 10 o'clock at night. We're definitely running behind in time. I think my emotions definitely started to kick in the last 10, 20 kilometers. And then as soon as we got to the finish line, that's when it all kicked in. And I pretty much just crossed the list. What we'd completed, who I was able to do it with, and pretty much just the cause. And then having, my past in the back of my head as well. After that, it was just pretty much all smiles. Had to do a speech at the end to all the participants. But no, I just felt really, really good afterwards. I sort of lacked the proudness a bit. I don't think it. I think it was just because it happened so quickly, and so much had month or two of planning. It just didn't really feel that real. Like we're able to raise over $16,000 for Women's Refuge while being on, TVNZ and One News and all these other media platforms. It just didn't feel real. Sort of still today, it doesn't.
Yeah, no, well done. I mean, I guess it's so, like you said before, it was so quick. And sometimes the quicker you do things, as they say, just put out the Band-Aid and boom, happy things happen. So really beautiful to hear that.
Yeah.
And what then? So you did that there, and then where did the fire come for you to start your foundation?
So I started off with like the plan of running. So the last run we did, and then it was sort of a joke throughout the run, and at the end that our next run for change is going to be from Rolleston to Timaru and back. And it was sort of just playing around and with the other participants as well, because we were all dead at the end of the 137. So it's sort of just a joke. And then, just a couple of weeks after, the event had just finished, and realizing how much this foundation has actually done for Women's Refuge and other people in New Zealand. I was just thinking of different ways that we could carry on doing these things, because I didn't feel like that event was, enough or just the end of it. I didn't think that was the end of the chapter for Run for Change. So I've just been thinking of different ways. So we've got different events coming up this year for Run for Change is just running to raise money and awareness for charitable organisations within New Zealand, and then also just being a foundation that supports the community. So not also just charities, but bringing the community together and just supporting there and being something that is there for the community.
That's really, really, really beautiful. And I see that your next big event is 300 kilometers.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that? Do you have a time frame for that, or is that a work in progress?
Still in the planning process of it. We're looking at late May, early June. So the date hasn't been announced yet. But so that'll be this year's one, which is from Christchurch to Timaru and then back to Christchurch. So the finishing line will be at Hagley Park. I'm just at the moment, trying to convince people that did the last one to, get involved in this one. Most people that I say, come run 300 kilometers with me for a charity, they just shrug me off and think I'm crazy. But
I wonder why they think.
I'll
I
keep
wonder why they think that, Rhys. I wonder why they think that.
But now I'll keep at it and trying to convince some people to do it, because it is achievable. Anyone can do it. Some training will be needed, but really, if you just put your mind to anything, you'll be able to achieve it. And I think a lot of the participants that ran the 137 found that out as well. Some of them didn't even train before doing the run as well, and
Wow.
it was just purely mental for them just to get through it, and they did get through it. And it just shows that you can really do anything that you put your mind to.
I love how you just so casually said, yeah, some training will be needed. Just casually, I was like, okay, cool. For some context, Rhys, I went for a 5K run this morning, and I was like, oh, why am I doing this? But anyway, that's me.
Yeah.
Obviously, some days are good, some days are bad. But I just loved how you're like, just casually, some training will be needed. That's got to be the quote of the podcast today. It's beautiful. No, I love it. Hello, Rhys. We've obviously been talking about your running a lot, because that's what you're doing at the moment. But as you think about where you are at the moment, and you think about where you've come from, are there any messages that you'd like to share? Domestic violence is real. Domestic violence happens, and as someone that has been through it, is there a message that you want to share to people out there that are listening? Because sometimes people don't see the other side of the world. You only know your world, as you mentioned before. Your norm is not the norm that other people see or feel. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, just a lot around domestic violence towards women and children. Like New Zealand has the highest rates of family violence in the OECD, so the highest rates of family violence in the world. So there's lots of stats around. I'm just reading them now. So on average, Women's Refuge calls are answered 71 crisis calls per day. Nearly half of the homicides and reported violent crimes are related to family violence, and around 67% of family violence episodes go unreported. 1 in 3 women will experience abuse in their lifetimes in New Zealand. So there's a huge problem in New Zealand that around domestic violence is known and isn't known. And I think just the message that we're trying to get across through our events, and that through not only to women but to children as well, is just to say that they're not alone. Sort of my personal experience, I grew up thinking that I was alone in these feelings and experiences at home. I think my whole family sort of felt like that, and to speak out wasn't really an option, and we weren't really aware of the support and that there was to help us be happier and have a better life. So I think my message to these people that may be experiencing this is just that you're not alone. There is heaps of help out there for you. It's just a matter of looking for it, and there is always light at the end of the tunnel if you just work a little bit hard to get your family to a state that is possible through these huge, networks and foundations that are in New Zealand, like Women's Refuge. Two Shine is out there. You have the White Ribbon, just heaps of foundations out there that will support you. You've got Run for Change now. So lots of things out there that will help you as long as you just do a little bit of research.
Thanks for that awareness piece about, these stats around New Zealand domestic violence, because I think we know it exists, we know it's out there, but nobody talks about it. So I'm glad that you did raise that there. And I guess you mentioned all the different foundations, and we'll in the podcast blurb, we'll put down any of those, all the contact details as well. So if anyone in this podcast knows somebody, or if themselves are going through domestic violence, we'll put all the agencies that you can get hold of, and because sometimes the hardest bit is actually asking for help, Rhys, isn't it?
Just realizing the situation as well. I've heard far too many stories that some women are just stuck in these sort of relationships and not realizing that it is bad, and you deserve better. So just being able to realize that as well.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Rhys. Rhys, you've spoken for almost an hour now, and I know there's so much that you can share. There's so much you can talk about, but a couple of things to talk about before we say au revoir to you is if they want to get involved with Run for Change, how can they get involved? And if they want to donate, what is there opportunities for them to do that there?
Yeah, so we have our social medias up. We have our Instagram that has our most followers on it. And through we've also got that's just called Run for Change. I'm slowly ticking away at making it easier and more accessible. So more information will come out about this 300 kilometers. So it'll be awesome to get all the help and participation within the event. The more people the more awareness we're going to make on this topic. But then I've also got my email links to the Run for Change Instagram, as well as the Facebook as well. So just feel free to email us, and then all the updates will be on those two platforms for the events and getting involved and all that. We've also got a Give a Little page in the process of getting moderated. So going to have that link to both platforms in case you want to donate towards Run for Change to help out with these events. So with the last 137 kilometer event, all that money was personally funded by me. So we've just made that Give a Little page if anyone just wants to help out with just supporting these events. So we had support virtual support volunteers and all that, and all the equipment. So all that funds basically goes towards just the events of support virtuals and all that, just making it safer for our participants, and then just getting more advertisement out there for raising awareness for not only domestic violence but future charities that we do it for as well.
Amazing, and we'll get all the links from you, and we can chuck those all into the podcast notes as well, so people can quite easily just find you, help you, and tag, and drop in a few. As I always say, all you need is just one gold coin or $1, and that makes all the difference. It doesn't have to be big. $1 makes a massive difference. You've shared lots and lots of different knowledge bombs in today's podcast, but our podcast is called Basket of Knowledge. And before I ask you for your piece of knowledge, Tana, any questions for Rhys?
No, I think we've delved into quite a lot. I guess just in terms of your police front, whereabouts is that at this stage? Obviously, we touched on it briefly, but whereabouts are you in terms of those stages for becoming a police officer?
Yeah, so I graduated New Zealand Institute of Sport in December last year. So this was just a preparation course towards the police. Because I'm still 17, they like you to be, well, you can apply at 17, you can get put through the training at 17, but they like you to have a bit of life experience. There is chances out there that I can apply now and join and be accepted. But just those chances are very rare. So, and it's always good to get some life experience for these jobs as well. So currently I'm just, getting a bit of life experience through the foundation as well, and looking at other jobs that can help me be a better person and, better police officer, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure I'm the fit for that job and not going into that job. And I could be, know a lot more and be more applicable for that job.
So that's amazing awareness to Rhys. I love what you said there, that you want to, you can so easily apply right now, but you've paused and said, actually, wait a minute, for me to be the best possible police officer, I need to be the best possible human right now in whatever that looks like. So that takes a lot of self-awareness. That takes a lot of self-courage, especially for a 17-year-old, because a lot of people just get it done, but you're not that mindset, which is really, really beautiful and really quite admirable to see. So again, kudos to you, and kudos to, when you do become a police officer, not if, but when you become a police officer, I think New Zealand and the communities you serve are going to be really, really lucky and really privileged to have you. And we'll be cheering you on from the sidelines. We won't be running 300Ks with you, but we'll cheer you from the sidelines. That I can tell you for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
To round off, Rhys, is there any piece of knowledge you'd like to share into our basket? So this could be from your time as a young person to the running to where you're right now. Any piece of knowledge that you think our listeners, myself and Tanya, would be able to apply to our lives as well?
I think just setting goals in life, and not, like you as a person can do whatever you put your mind to. If you want to, you may not want to run 300 kilometers, using that as an example, but anyone can do it, and anyone will be able to do it if you set your mind to it. Life is hard. Training for something like that would be hard, but if you have the right mindset and the right head on your shoulders, you can really accomplish anything in life. And that goes for not just running, but goes for anything within your career, within your family, within your life, within your hobbies. Just really, if you set your mind to something, you can really accomplish anything. You only live once, so, take something, make something good out of yourself. Really set your mind to something and be the best person that you really want to be.
Thank you. That is so powerful. So powerful that life is hard. You've said that, people think that life is easy and it's meant to be easy, but that is a false story that we've been told, that life is easy. Nobody's life is easy, and we don't know everyone's going through. So life is hard. So as you said before, find a goal, and your mindset is the barrier. And obviously, you've got to also think about things, but if you put your mind to it, then you'll start figuring out other things as well. And it reminds me of a great quote that I've heard, or someone saying this. It's choose your hard. As you said, everything is hard. You just choose your hard, and every single day you wake up in the morning, you choose your hard. Everything that you do, you choose your heart. So that's a fantastic piece of advice and a piece of knowledge to put in there. Rhys, any last words before we say goodbye to you?
No, I just wanted to thank you all for bringing me on. I just wanted to do a little thank you to a sponsor that has helped within this whole thing. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't out without them. So that's a company called Wealth of Health. So they are based in Christchurch, and so they provide high quality, healthy meals. So they're just a small business within Papanui, and their meals are super affordable, super cheap. And they provide all the meals for like our events and that, for our runs. And that stuff is just all beneficiary for, these high explosive events. These people are so good in Christchurch. So if you're wanting to change your lifestyle and change your meal plan to something like healthier that's going to benefit you, Wealth of Health is definitely something that something you should go for.
Amazing. Yeah, like you said before, we've got to thank our people that support you. So Wealth of Health, fantastic. Thank you for the mahi that you do with them. Rhys, and all the other things you do. I've just gone on the Instagram page and whoa, looks pretty tasty. So we'll definitely tag them in. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rhys, for that shout out as well. And Rhys, thank you so much for jumping on today. We've been trying to get you on here for the last few months, but as you realize, you're a very busy young man. Doing lots of things with work, with study, and obviously now with your foundation and doing all the running. And so jumping on a Sunday afternoon, we really appreciate it. Any last words, Tane?
No, I think that the biggest thing for me is just, thanks, Rhys, for, I guess, opening up, sharing your story, and I guess, yeah, making things more real, because as we say, we haven't necessarily experienced, parts of your life that you've experienced. And I think it's awesome to, again, share that story so that other people that may be facing something similar now feel like they're not alone. And I guess that's the biggest part for us is, normalizing that story, making it a bit more, a bit more, or having a bit more awareness around it. So, yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks for showing that. Beautiful. So, listeners out there, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully you've learned something about what happens in New Zealand behind those closed doors there, but you've also realized that, hey, there's some people out there that are doing some really cool things. I started with the podcast by talking about the butterfly effect. You can see why I was alluding to Rhys's butterfly effect, where Rhys is 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 100,000 kilometers. The butterfly effect, what Rhys is doing is going to have a ripple effect in this community and for all the people that are touched by that there. So, Rhys, thank you for jumping on today. For our listeners, if you haven't learned anything today, go back and listen again, because you're probably snoozing. There's some real gold in here. And we're going to do a shout out to Rhys. And if you want to help Rhys, please look at the show notes to drop in a dollar or two or whatever you feel. It might not be money, it might be some other ways you can support them as they do some amazing mahi out here in New Zealand. Till next time, don't forget to stay safe. Don't forget to find a reason to smile. And most importantly, don't forget to always put something into your basket of knowledge. Till next time, ka kite everybody. Peace. Bye.